What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Opendoor. I want to go over some of the data points, what shorts have been doing, and where things might be going from here. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So Opendoor definitely has been starting to gain a lot of good traction, and honestly, there's been a lot of crazy updates. So a big catalyst going into this upcoming week essentially was going to be this. So Carrie was going to be doing a interview, and that was going to be put out on Tuesday. But of course, we did have some crazy news that did drop on the 15th, and she is stepping down as CEO. Went through kind of her explanation and that she kind of was brought in to save the company, and in her opinion, she kind of did that and blah, blah, blah. So crazy stock. So when it comes down to Opendoor, I do feel that people are still debating whether it is a meme stock or not. And Carrie, that was her first post on Twitter, as I brought up, her kind of just mentioning that she kind of sees it more than just a meme, or actually she's kind of not really saying it's a meme. She thinks it's a credible company. My only problem is that you have individuals like Eric, and so far I think a lot of people absolutely love his passion, but when someone says that Opendoor potentially is going to 200, it's very difficult to take not only that individual but the company seriously and not think it's a meme stock, because anytime anyone says, hey, stock is going to go like 50x, instantly meme. That's how my mind works, at least. So even though Opendoor on a technical standpoint is showing signs that it wants to move higher, which I'll further elaborate on in this video, but seeing these types of posts by a lot of individuals, it's kind of, I still do believe that the meme craze behind it is very, very much there. I could be wrong. Let me know your general thoughts on that. But there hasn't been all that much in actual updates from the company itself, aside from what I mentioned. So CEO stepping down, potential interview, which of course now is canceled. And then you have shorts, not really knowing exactly how to play all this. On Friday, shorts did return 3.77 million shares, but 22.88% of the free float is being shorted. So that's what we're going into this upcoming week with. That does work out to be 149.95 million shares overall being shorted. And just over the last roughly 3 months, probably more specifically just since kind of mid-July, shorts have lost a solid about $240 million worth. So pretty interesting stuff, and that's not counting, I guess, synthetics, if you do believe in that, or whatever else. But short score 71.09, so the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. So very interesting stock, I gotta admit. But nonetheless, looking at the options from the bulls standpoint, you do feel consensus is going to be roughly around that $4 to $5 range going into this upcoming week. One thing to take note of, though, is recently there was new chains that was added, so market makers do feel that there is a small chance that potentially could go to those levels. So again, kind of further validating that there's a lot of upside. Bears going into this upcoming week feel it will be kind of between that 2 to 250. So definitely a lot more upside is anticipated. One thing that I always like to look at is institutional transactions, both occurring on the secondary market as well as dark pool. So it's good to see a lot of big transactions occurring. So 4.96 million, 1.8, a lot of big pockets of buying as well as selling, a little bit more towards the buys, of course, but a lot of big transactions. And for a momentum stock, which in my opinion, Opendoor kind of falls under that category, you need this level of capital to get in. Again, both on the secondary market and dark pool. So dark pool, a lot of big transactions. Of course, I'm going through this relatively fast because I don't need to go line by line and kind of show that. But nonetheless, though, my last video, which was roughly around 1 week ago, I did mention that the technicals indicate that it is going to go higher. So looking at the fib levels on a 1-day chart, that 245, which was basically where I did my last video, I said that if it was to get above that, then you were going to see a good chance of $4 being hit. And potentially from there, given the meme and the shorts and everything, you could potentially even see it go much higher than that, 5 and then 6. Again, In theory, momentum stocks don't really follow this, but 245 is going to be a strong support. 414 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Like I said, I'm looking at the 1-day chart, so things are still looking pretty good. One positive that did happen on Friday, though, it was able to successfully get above this super trend. So going into this upcoming week, you are going to now have algorithmic trading really working in favor of Opendoor and really pushing it higher, because of course, with it getting above that super trend, it does now signal that the trend is moving higher. Aside from that, though, it's already above all the key pivotal moving averages that generally I like to look at, of course. And then stochastic RSI, because of the recent price action, you see it rather overbought. A lot of stocks can kind of stay in that status for a very long time, so it's nothing really crazy. But if there is a potential negative, then you will see some kind of volatility as a byproduct of that. And that could come from Opendoor itself or just the broader market. So I think this week, a good maybe catalyst for Opendoor that could really push it higher even further is going to be the announcement of their interim CEO, because I can't see them just instantly placing a CEO. So most likely you'll have an interim for probably a quarter or a quarter and a half or whatever. But nonetheless, I do feel like that could be potentially the next big catalyst. So let me know your thoughts on Opendoor. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? Have you been dabbling with options? So like I mentioned, the options do signal a lot of upside. And for those of you that did options, for instance, even in my last video, when I suggested to buy calls, you'd be up a solid, probably 2x in some cases, depending on what strike price you did pick. So for those of you that do not know options, highly suggest taking the time to research options, because it can be very, very profitable and very beneficial. And also, speaking of beneficial, there's one thing that there was recently launched on Moomoo, and that is algorithmic trading. So I'm going to be doing a dedicated video on how to set this up, because a lot of retail could very much benefit from algorithmic trading, because more common than not, it's a lot of the big players that like to use it. So I'll do a dedicated video. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so. And just so you have access to this already, you might as well sign up for Moomoo. It's free to do so. But if you do actually sign up and throw $100 at it, they give you $50 back instantly. So that is a huge deal. And I do believe as well, they give you 60 days of $0 commission. So this is a solid deal. Sign up for that. Link in the description below and also the comments. So kind of stay tuned for the algorithmic trading. I'm very excited about kind of doing that. But aside from all of that, though, I do feel this upcoming week for Opendoor, there's definitely going to be more and more upside. So let me know your thoughts on Opendoor. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. One final thing as well, if you are looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.